Welcome to Your Funeral Coach Talks, a bi-monthly podcast hosted by Lisa Baue, founder of Your Funeral Coach, a consulting and mentoring company serving the funeral, cremation, and cemetery profession. Listen in today to the Caring for Yourself series as she interviews thought leaders and difference makers in her profession.
We're here today with Kristen Ernst, one of our collaborative network partners. Kristen is a licensed professional counselor. She teaches and trains in the funeral service profession as well as other professions. She works directly with hospices, outreaches into the community with clergy and other caregivers, and she works very specifically with funeral directors as well, and helping them understand grief and loss and stress in their lives and just help them be better people. The other thing that Kristen does, of course, is she is the owner of the Center for Hope and Healing, which is a counseling center in St. Charles, Missouri, my former hometown. And we're just excited to have her here with us today as part of our Caring for Self series, because we know that if we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot take care of others. Kristen, welcome. Tell us a little bit
Thank
more about yourself.
thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So, as you said, I'm the owner of the Center for Hope and Healing and been counseling there for a few years now. And I'm really excited to share some great knowledge with you about rest today.
Rest. Oh, boy, could we all just need more, right? It's recommended to take naps, I'm pretty sure, especially as you get older. I love that. But gosh, I could have used a nap when I was a young funeral director every single day, and you just never had time for it, right? So we
Yeah,
have to
even
learn to
just a
better rest
15-minute,
ourselves.
15-minute unplug, right?
Ah, that's so important. Now, Kristen, you work with a lot of families who have had losses, deaths in their
Mhm.
family, and those that are facing deaths. I know you have some background and expertise in helping suicide survivors. You've worked suicide hotlines. You've been a counselor for hospice as well. And now you're running grief groups for a variety of funeral homes, some of them online and some of them in person. And
Yeah.
you do coaching and counseling with funeral homes on how to better set up all of their aftercare and grief support programs. So thank you for being here with us today and for this very important topic about rest. So
Yeah.
you're also just finishing your EMDR certification. Could you tell us a little bit more about EMDR? Because I'm very fascinated with some of the work that you're doing to grow yourself in the areas that need more work in our profession.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I would say that EMDR is a trauma resolution therapy. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Wow.
So
That's a mouthful. So does
it
that
is,
mean our
it
eyes
is.
rest when we go to sleep, our eyes rest, right? But you do something else with clients to help them with their eye movement that helps them ground them in ways that can help them deal with trauma, right? It has to do with trauma release and things like that.
It's a resolution therapy that uses bilateral stimulation. It's
Okay.
complicated, but what happens is a
It's
lot of times
okay.
when we have trauma, it's stored in the right side of the brain.
Okay.
And the right side's not talking to the left side.
Oh,
So
wow.
bilateral stimulation helps it get over into the left side of the brain and kind of restore what's happened in the body.
I love that. Well,
Mhm.
in funeral service, we go through and see a lot of families in trauma. And
Yes.
sometimes that affects us. And going through a pandemic over the years, as well as we can be traumatized too, in the
Mhm.
with the families we serve, and just seeing what they're going through, the loss of a child, a drug overdose, a tragic accident. So those kind of therapies, I think, are important for us in funeral service to recognize we may need them
It really
if
is.
we're
Yeah.
dealing with some trauma ourselves. But let's
Yeah.
get back to thank you for explaining that certification. I think that's important people understand some of what you do and how you help funeral service and funeral directors and grieving families and those who are just facing a loss. So
Mm.
let's talk about rest more because you're going to tell us a little bit about your personal story about the hustle culture. I love this, the hustle
Yeah.
culture. You think we're in a hustle culture where we're hustling around all the time and we just don't slow down? Is that what that is?
We have our kids in like every activity, every possible moment is accounted for. I know that as funeral directors, there's multitasking that's happening all the time. So this is a way of trying to like kind of pull back and be very intentional about what you're deciding to do instead of just kind of doing.
So you
My
say
personal story.
your personal story. Tell us.
Yeah.
You're a mom,
Yeah.
a single mom of 3 children. I don't know how you're
Yes.
doing this, by the way.
I
I mean,
well,
I was a single mom of 2 kids that were spread 8 years apart. Your children are a little closer together.
yeah.
You've got one in college, right? And one
Mhm.
getting married, and one in high
Mhm.
school, and another one going into college. And
It's a little nutty.
it's
It's a
a
little
little
nutty.
nutty. So you're running all
Yeah.
over the place. So this is you are a busy woman, and how do you deal with this busyness and this
Well,
overwhelming sense of I don't have time for self?
I think that the biggest part that I've done this year, it started kind of in November of last year. 10 years ago when I got my divorce, I came out of a really abusive marriage, and I decided that I had stayed at home for so many years, I think 10 years, and I had to kind of go back into work and go back to school and I've just been busy for 10 years of doing so many things, having to get the degree, all of that. Um, what I recognized last November, I went to a retreat in Sedona,
Sedona,
and
what a
I
wonderful place.
realized
Center of the vortex, right?
it's a
Oh,
healing place,
it's
right?
very
Such a
healing.
healing place. Yeah. And so I realized I was seeing twice as many clients as most of the people there. I was doing twice as many groups as everyone. A bunch of counselors were there. And I realized I got to pull back.
Great
And so
recognition.
I started to kind of be much more intentional and not say yes to everything because I needed to say yes to myself. And in order to say yes to so many other mm, things, I was saying no to myself.
I see. Oh, that's interesting.
So,
So how
yeah,
would you
so I pulled
translate this
back
rest?
and
And you pulled back. It's hard in funeral service to pull
mhm,
back because we're go 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 from the moment we walk in the door,
mhm.
or actually our phones are attached to us. So, the phone's constantly ringing. So what do we do with all that, and how do we find the time to rest?
I think part of it is being very intentional about your other time. When you're in the car, I notice that I am driving in quiet. I am meditating more. I am setting intentions in the morning. When
Ooh.
I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I'm not thinking about all the hundred things I have to do. I'm just focusing on my teeth.
You're focusing on your teeth. Ooh, it feels good to get your
Yeah.
teeth massaged, and
Mhm.
you're cleaning them, and
Mhm.
they're gonna be whiter and prettier, and that's really interesting. So that's a zero in
Mhm.
focus first thing in the morning. Do you also meditate? You
Mhm.
said meditate when you're in your car. I would be afraid I'd, like, crash my car because I'd probably fall asleep if I meditate too heavily. Tell us about this meditation technique you use in the mornings. I think this is awesome. We start our day off well.
So even in the car, it's not that I'm closing my eyes and kind of doing a stretch while I'm driving.
Phew, well, that's
Um,
good.
thank goodness, right? But I'm more of like paying attention to how the steering wheel feels in my hands and
Oh,
really paying attention to the lines and noticing other people that are driving. How many times do we go to a place and we don't even really know how we got there?
how many times have we done actually gone to a place which we weren't even going to, but all of a sudden we
Right.
end up there and we're like, "How? What? Did I make a
Mhm.
wrong turn? Why
Yeah.
am I here?" Kind of a rote
Yeah.
memory thing. So, okay, so
Yeah.
that's not good. So, that's interesting
Yes.
though that you're using that moment in the car. Some people will listen to music. I know I see way too many people on the phone when they're in their car. And this is a
Mhm.
really scary thing because that's lack of attention is the number one cause of accidents today. Lack of attention.
Yep.
So, those of you get your earbuds in or something. But get your hands off your phone, right? Good
Mhm.
advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still on rest because rest is what we need to focus on because we're not getting enough of it. So how do you do that? How do
What
you shut your brain
I
down and rest your brain, and what do you recommend?
I think one of the very intentional things that you can do is during the pandemic, I used to walk around my house twice before I entered um, from work and then going into my home and being the single parent, I would make sure that I would walk, and they, call what grounding, where you take your shoes off and you walk in the grass.
Wow.
And I tried to do that. Like something it doesn't take that long. You could do, I have this bird feeder that I have my coffee in the morning, and then I watch these birds for a few minutes, and I really make sure that I'm not thinking about my clients that morning that I'm going to have, or the families that I'm going to serve that day, but I'm just looking at these birds.
That's
That's
cool.
really an important part of rest.
I have birds and bird feeders, not birds in the house, but outside. I love to feed the
Yeah.
birds. And when I
Yeah.
don't have them there, or it's, a bad weather kind of thing, I actually have hot water for my birds now. So they all have feeders
Nice.
because little birdies, my husband thinks I'm nuts, but little birdies, like in frozen water, can kill them. And so I keep my water. I got this bird feeder thing that I plug in, and I warm up the water for the birds. So if you
Oh, I
haven't done
didn't
that
know
yet,
that.
I highly suggest it. If it's
Yeah.
wintertime, those little birds need water, and they can't get it anyplace because they can't peck on the snow, and they'll freeze to
Hmm.
death. Isn't that something?
I did
I
not know
love that.
that.
I love watching birds. So getting your feet out in the grass, just walking around a little bit, that's good. Hard to do when the winter time hits, but maybe you could just find a room with really cozy carpeting or something, or a rug. You can just,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that's part of
Just
rest.
paying attention to the sensation in your feet.
Ah, remember the movie Pretty Woman? I'm going to date myself here.
Hmm.
So Julia Roberts gets him to take off his shoes in the park and walk around
Hmm.
barefoot. Remember that scene?
Yeah, I
And it
do
was
remember
all
that scene.
about getting his head out of the business and learning to be human and relax.
Hmm. How much do funeral directors need that?
Oh my gosh, we need it a lot. So you can't really do it
Hmm.
on the job while you're there unless you have a special place where you can go. I know at Bowie's, and I've talked about this before. If you're a new listener though, we have quiet rooms where we have massage chairs,
Hmm.
and you can bring your music in there. You cannot be on your phone. You have to check out for a minimum of 15 minutes. We prefer 20.
Hmm.
30 would be ideal, but we can't always find those times in our day. And there's a water feature, and some incense, I think, that we put some nice smells if you want that. I think we have to do something,
Yeah.
right, during our day, our work day, to take those.
Yeah, and I don't even, sometimes that seems a little unrealistic in between serving families.
Mhm.
I will say that when I have my schedule, it's back to back for clients. I have about 5 minutes in between each
5 minutes.
client.
That's
Yeah,
tough.
if that. But what I'll do is take some cold water and put it underneath my wrists, and then do some boxed breathing.
Okay, explain the
And
breathing. I wanna learn how
yeah,
to do
so
this.
boxed breathing is, we can do it. Are you
Box
okay with doing it? Let's
breathing.
do it.
Sure, let's try it. Nobody can
All
see
right.
us, so they could hear our breath.
But we can do it together. Yeah.
Okay,
So
all
you
right, here we
breathe
go.
in for 4
In.
through your nose, hold for 4, and then breathe out very slowly as through a straw for 4. Let's
Ooh,
try it one more time.
okay.
So breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and then breathe out very slow.
Oh, my shoulders just let down. Oh, that feels good.
Hmm.
I like that. How many times do you
Then,
recommend we do that, Kristen?
if we could do that 3 times,
3 times
that box breathing,
in 5 minutes or less.
yeah. I mean, that takes 90 seconds.
Yeah, sometimes we don't even have time in between families to go to the little boy or girl's
The
room,
bathroom.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But just to find some time to find that box breathing, regardless of where you
Hmm.
go. Yeah, I was listening to a story that a friend of mine who owns funeral homes told me about a funeral director that told him this story about how she had to go to the laundry room to find a
Mm-hmm.
space in the funeral home to just cry and relax, and he actually wrote a,
Hmm.
a, a song about it. It's Nathan Morris, and if if listeners have not gone on to
Mhm.
Spotify and listened to Nathan Morris's music, please do. He has a Christmas song out, by the way, that's coming out, and he has some other new songs. But this one's called The Laundry Room, and it's about a funeral director that just can't find a place to go. And how sad is
Wow.
that? But where
Yeah.
they do their laundry for their care center. Ah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
We all
That was
need
a
a
great
spot.
excerpt.
We
We
all need
all
a
need a
spot.
spot. That was great. Well, let's
Mhm.
talk some more about other types of rest and the difference between rest and sleep. So, you're giving us little tidbits about how we can actually rest
Mhm.
our minds, and help us reduce stress so that we can better function during busy times. What else do we
Mhm.
need to do, Kristen?
So what I did a little research, and the World Health Organization, since the pandemic, has said that anxiety and depression has increased 25% in
25%?
worldwide. Hmm.
25%
Yeah,
worldwide.
yeah.
So that's
And
why,
so the
oh gosh, wow.
yeah, one of the things that'll combat this is being very intentional about your scheduling and like pulling back from things, like being able to say no. If kids really love soccer, put them in soccer,
Sure.
and then
Don't force them
maybe
into
they don't have to do
soccer,
everything.
right? Yeah,
They don't have to play the violin and the guitar and the flute and be in Girl Scouts and we're really, especially what I see in the funeral service industry is that we're really busy at work, but then we come home and we're still extra busy at home.
mm. Well, the
And
other
what
thing we
I
do,
know,
right, we volunteer. So funeral
yeah,
service, as owners and managers, some of our and funeral directors, some of our part of our responsibility is to join organizations and to give back to the community. That's always
hmm,
been expected. In my
yeah,
family, in funeral service, it's part of building up your client base, it's part of showing you care for people. So you have some of this
it's also
stuff,
doing what's right.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
after hours, right?
yeah,
It's not always during your workday because you have no time. So, what
yeah.
do you do with that? Saying no to your boss is
Maybe
hard.
you have to really be intentional and maybe volunteer in one spot. You know,
Volunteer, choose one,
um,
right? Not five.
yeah, hmm,
Okay, I like that.
yeah,
So,
very
so if
intentional
listeners are
work.
any of our owners here, let's talk because I know you want your staff involved in the community, but you do have to limit what that means and find things that they're passionate about. Let them choose, right? If you're going to do
Mhm,
something like
mhm,
have a parade or sponsor an organizational walk or run or something and you want them to participate, pay them for it. That's work for them. That's not
mhm,
true volunteering. Oh, and I did read something
mhm.
not too long ago that volunteering it actually helps reduce stress. So on that sidebar note,
Yeah,
yeah, have you read about this? And it's helping
yeah. Well, if
people
it's
with
something
it.
you're passionate about, right?
Right. Well, it feels good to give back to people, and you want to give back unselfishly. However, what it's doing is actually helping you because you're helping others,
Mhm,
and something
mhm,
you're passionate about doing really makes you feel good when you see that you've made a difference in others' lives, and it really aligns with what we do in funeral service as our passion to give back to those who are mourning.
mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about the benefits of rest besides that and volunteering. What else can it do for us?
So when we're resting, we're able to have better cognitive function.
Okay.
We can concentrate better. What I noticed when I was in that hustle culture is that I was getting sick a lot.
Oh,
And so I now that I've pulled back, I have a better immune system.
wonderful.
It's definitely improved mood. And rest can really increase your metabolism as well.
So this one exercise you shared with us about breathing, I know there's more. So let's talk about more ways we can do this, walking around in the grass. Um,
Hmm,
if you own a cemetery, there's always could be ways you could walk around in the grass out there. Just got to be
hmm,
careful there's not a
hmm.
funeral going on around you with your staff comes out and sees you walking in the grass. What
Right.
are you doing? Right? I know our staff would get together in teams and they would all bring their tennis shoes to work and they would just walk. Some of
Hmm,
them, if they were at the facility where we had the cemetery, they would walk around the cemetery. They just walk around on the sidewalk around the community. They just get out and walk and take a walk
hmm.
break. That could be considered kind of a rest, right?
Oh, for sure. I didn't take a lunch for the first 2 years of owning the Center for Hope and Healing, and I'm taking a
Wow.
lunch now.
Well, you're supposed to
I
eat little small meals throughout the day, right? Not just yeah, but
Right, and I
skipping
would
lunch is not
just jam
good.
something in and yeah, it wasn't good. But now what I do is bring my tennis shoes to work, I eat a little, but then I walk a little even no matter what the weather is outside, I think it's good to get some fresh air
I
and
love to walk in the
breathe.
snow. Not everybody does, but I think walking in the
Mhm.
snow is
Yeah, I
wonderful.
do too. Yeah.
Let's talk about this word called mindfulness. Can you teach us a little bit more about what we can do to be more mindful and how it benefits us?
Yeah. Mindfulness is paying attention. It's doesn't have to be like this meditation or even a mantra or yoga. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. So, like what I said about brushing your teeth, you can be brushing and notice the way it feels on your gums and the way it tastes and engaging all of your senses to brush your teeth. And that's mindfulness.
Brushing your teeth is mindfulness.
Hmm.
Walking in grass is mindfulness. What else can we do? Let's think creatively here. Funeral directors, funeral service, what more can you do holding onto your steering wheel and noticing your steering wheel? I love this stuff. Give us a few more ideas.
So, any kind of breath work, do a lot of paired muscle relaxation. So, do that boxed breathing, but then take the big toes in your feet and
Toes, our
push them
toes.
down into the ground.
Push your toes into the ground with your shoes on or with your shoes off.
You can do that however you want. You can do that with your when you're meeting with a family and they won't even know.
All of a sudden, your feet start moving below the arrangement conference
You're
table.
just you're just you're
Just
just
don't tap.
breathing
No
and you're
tapping, right?
yeah,
No tapping.
no.
Okay.
You're breathing very intentionally and you're pushing your big toe down into the ground and almost like picturing as if there's roots underneath your feet. And that can bring a very grounding presence when, for instance, you're hearing a very traumatic story from a family.
Oh, what a great idea. Because when we're serving families, especially those that have completed suicide, those that have
Mhm,
lost a loved one in a tragic accident or in a difficult way. I know during the pandemic, it was so hard to work with families that just couldn't be there to see their loved ones and hold their hand while they were suffering and dying. So using your big toes. I love that.
mhm.
Okay, what else can we do?
When you can use that and then move all the way up the body. And maybe you couldn't do this with family in front of families. But then what you would do is you would tense your calf muscles for 5 seconds as hard as you can. And we're doing it in the session as we're
Okay, so I'm
talking.
doing it
But
right now. Hopefully you
yep,
don't
me
get a
too.
cramp and all of a sudden you
Yeah.
have to bend down and
No.
start massaging
No.
your calf, right? Ah, don't do
Right.
this while you're
So you're
driving.
right. So you're tensing your muscles. It's called paramuscle relaxation. You're going to tense as hard as you can for 5 seconds and then release. And then move up to your quadriceps, which is the top of your legs, and squeeze that as hard as you can for 5 seconds and then release.
Oh, nice. So you just go through the different parts of your
Mhm.
physique, your body, and tense it up and then release it. How much time should you spend doing that, Kristen? Well, like to get through the whole body.
We're just doing 5-second increments.
Okay.
I don't think that at 20 minutes of this mindfulness would be ideal. And the research shows that when we've gone through a traumatic event, the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, is enlarged.
It gets
And
bigger.
so, mhm, and by doing mindfulness, we're going to actually relax that part of the brain. And so 20 minutes of this, maybe we can only do 3 minutes here, 3 minutes there. But the whole point is to try and just incorporate this in very small increments into your day.
That's really cool. I love that. So, do you think that this is something that we could use and do as we have staff meetings? Like, say we have a morning staff meeting. Usually they're early in the
Mhm.
morning because late in the day teams are just wiped out. They're ready to go home, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
first thing in the morning, if you're getting your staff together, I know some companies have what's called huddles, where they'll actually have
Mhm.
people in a huddle in an office or in a room together where they're going to talk about what the day has coming up. I'm just wondering if there's something you can do to ground people before that starts. If you could use some of these exercises
Mhm.
and bring them in. And if you want to learn how to do more of that, you could call Kristen and she could actually help you set this up in a meaningful way that you could use in your staff meetings. I'm just thinking might be
Mhm.
something good to try, right?
Yeah. For your office, I know that your listeners can't necessarily see your office, but even breathing and then counting everything that's brown
Warm
in
colors.
your
I like
office.
warm colors
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Some people
But
like
it gets
things.
you kind of really focused.
It does. It does.
Mhm.
Well, what
Mhm.
Kristen's referring to is my office in Colorado, where my husband and I have a home, and he's from Colorado, and I built it with beetle kill wood. In the background, it has
It's
paneling, and it's
beautiful.
very
Yeah.
warm, and it's my
Mhm.
little she shed where I do my podcasts and my writing and my coaching. And thank you for noticing that. But it is really my comfort level. It's kind of like a mini lodge
Mhm.
feel inside. And then I have a little
Mhm.
futon on the side where I can just lay down if I want to take a rest or a nap or a break. And that's okay to
Mhm.
have, right? To have a little place where you
Yeah.
can
Oh, for
stretch
sure.
out in your office someplace. Owners, are you listening? Do you have a place to
We need a
stretch
place
out?
to nurture ourselves.
We do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know those wonderful lazy boys. You can go get the lazy boy chairs. You get the ones that have vibration in them, and they give you a massage. Put one of those in a
Mhm.
private room for your staff members.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to clean them and make sure that they stay cleaned down, and everybody has to
Mhm.
help take care of that in between. But gosh, find a little place for a rest area for your staff. That's what I would recommend. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Another really great gift idea, I just want to throw this in there, Lisa, is
Sure.
that they do make weighted blankets that
Yes.
are for children, but they're great lap blankets for employees.
Really? I've seen
So
them
they
for
could have it at their
adults.
desk. They're only about, yeah, 12 by 18.
Okay.
They're a weighted blanket that help with anxiety and grounding. You can even put like lavender scent on them, essential oils, and put that on the on your lap as you're typing or writing an obituary or doing, following up on emails. Have that on your lap
I love
and
this idea. Where do you
create
get
another
these
sense of
weighted?
calm just at your desk.
Okay, I love this idea.
Uh,
What a great idea. So if you haven't given your employees a gift for the holidays yet, or they have an anniversary coming up, a special anniversary with your company, or it's their birthday, and you want to just get them a little something, where do
mhm.
you find these children's weighted blankets? What a great idea.
I mean, yeah,
Amazon.
they're on Amazon. I have them in my office, and
You
you
do.
can find them at, you know, Walmart. Yeah, anywhere, Target.
I love this idea. That's great. Weighted lap blankets for your staff.
Mhm.
Now you're thinking, what else can we do?
Because we all need to be grounded, like,
Yes.
throughout the day.
Yes. Yes. Make sure you have the air
Yeah.
conditioning on during the summer if it's hot, because I'm thinking those blankets might be a little warm. I don't
They're
know.
not too bad. If they're only
No?
12 by 18, it
Yeah.
just fits on your lap, and
Nice.
they're usually about, 10 pounds, and it just kind of feels like a little bit of weight to ground you. And how many times are people, like, bumping and tapping their leg, and this is a much more intentional way to kind of breathe.
I love that idea. A lap blanket. That's cool. And you can be all ages, because you remember you when you're I remember my grandparents always having a blanket on their legs, when they were sitting in a chair
Mhm,
when they were
mhm,
older. But this is not just for older people. It must have
mhm,
given them comfort and kept them warm, obviously, right?
mhm.
Huh.
Yeah.
I like that. So what else could we do? Like in our work environment, in our offices and things. I mean, how about one of those scented machines where you said lavender, you have some scents
Mhm,
going that are not one of the scent companies that puts that into your whole system, but something special. You don't want to, I'd be careful with
mhm.
candles because you're always going to be concerned about fire, making sure somebody blows it out
Yeah.
before the end of the day. But what else can we do for our teams to help them have a more restful environment when they're working?
Well, you want to make sure that you're creating a place that not only is restful, but is creating mental sharpness. So you can have, lavender or scented oils, but the other part is if someone has 10 minutes in between families, give somebody, say, hey, go take a walk. Let's go outside and let's do some breathing. Like grab a partner, have a accountability mindfulness partner.
I like that. That's a great idea. Have a buddy system. Who can you practice
Mhm.
mindfulness with on your team? Hmm. Let's think about that funeral service,
Yeah.
cemetery and cremation service. Find a buddy system for mindfulness. Do you recommend any particular reading or listening, YouTube videos, places people could go to learn more about this?
So there's all kinds of stuff out there on YouTube. I love Bella Ruth Napperstack. I know
Bella.
that's a
Spell
mouthful,
that
but
last name
she has
for us.
some
Bella Ruth.
Naberstack. It's Naperstack.
Nice.
And she does some great uh, mindful meditation, kind of walking you through guided meditations. Some of them are long, some of them are short. She has one specifically for anxiety, but they're beautiful. And the imagery that she talks about, her voice is very soothing, and that doesn't cost anything. You can just find that on YouTube.
For free. Hmm.
There's a really great book that I've been reading called Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hersey. She's also the founder of the NAP ministry, which I know we all love naps.
Yes, we do. So spell her
Um,
last name
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Patricia?
It's yeah, Trisha. I think she just goes by Trisha, and
Trisha.
then Hersey. It's yeah, Hersey.
Hersey. Trisha Hersey. I
Mhm.
like that. And she's a proponent of
Yeah,
naps.
yeah. And she talks about kind of stepping away from the idea of capitalism and maximalism, and kind of stepping back and finding out what you really need in life and returning to self.
I love that. Kristen, thank you so much
Uh,
for those
Yeah,
recommendations.
it's my
So funeral
pleasure.
service, what are we going to do about this? We have to do more. We have to be better. This isn't something we're used to doing. And of course, we've always been a busy profession. And when that phone rings and then it rings again and then it rings again and we walk into our offices in the morning and we see how many families we're going to be serving, or sometimes for smaller firms, they could have 2 or 3 families, and that's an overwhelming number for them because they're usually a one
Mhm.
or two person show. And it's like, how are we going to do all this? Taking those breaks, finding that rest, seeking mindfulness, doing some deep breathing prior to meeting families, pushing your toes into the ground, walking barefoot in the grass. Oh, I just love that. That's just fabulous. And then I think the scents, the lap blanket. What a wonderful idea. Thank you so much for sharing this with our listeners
Good.
today, Kristen. If they want to reach out
I'm
to you
so
and learn
excited to
more,
share these.
yes, I know you are. You're very passionate about this, and I love this. And I think funeral service needs to hear more and discover more ways that they can support themselves personally as well as
Mhm.
others that they work in and around. So, and you probably could do some of this if you're running a grief group. Kristen can teach you how to do this with a grief group. My guess would
Mhm.
be for those who are mourning also could use these kinds of techniques to help them uh, as
Mhm.
they move through their journey in grief and loss. So thank you so much for being with us
Yeah.
today. If people want to get a hold of you, obviously they can go to yourfuneralcoach.com, and Kristen is there and listed as one of our collaborative network partners. You can see her beautiful face. She's absolutely gorgeous, by the way. I know you can't see us, but she's gorgeous. And she's just a wonderful person to work with. And she really can help you with putting these kinds of things into your business as well as things that you can do for your staff. So thank you so much, Kristen. How do people get a hold of you otherwise? I know they can go to yourfuneralcoach.com. Don't forget that. But how else can they reach you?
I have the website hopeandhealingcounseling.com, and you can reach me via email at Kristen Ernst at chhcounseling.com.
Thank you. Thank you again for being with us, and we'll look forward to learning more as the year goes on about how we can better care for ourselves. And thank you, listeners, for being with us today. Have a restful, restful day.
We hope you enjoyed today's Your Funeral Coach podcast and will join Lisa Baue and her guests again soon. Let us know if there are any topics you would like to hear more about. For more information on future shows, please go to yourfuneralcoach.com. If you enjoyed the show, consider giving us a 5-star review. Thank you.